Hello, and this is my case study on internet use violations. Yeah, there's a great deal of things that we know about this case. First of all, we know that Roosevelt High School is an affluent school with students who are accustomed to having access to technology and also using new technology. Dr. Forbes, the principal there, is an accomplished and well-known and respected principal at Roosevelt High School. Miss Walker is a science teacher there. She's highly qualified to teach science, and she believes in strong academic rigor. Miss Walker is also having a difficult time developing rapport with students, and Dr. Forbes is working with Miss Walker in this area. Presumably a student or students have created a website which have attacked Miss Walker's character and also carries a threatening message. The principal is looking into this and seems willing to help her to resolve this conflict. Also, we know that laws exist to protect students from defamation and libel from school personnel, but there's not much known about how this law works, going the opposite direction, where it's students against teachers. There are some things that we need to know about this case. Even though there's a plan in place for Miss Walker to improve her instruction, we don't know the extent of the plan completion. For example, is there an actual plan of improvement for Miss Walker? What stage is she in? Have there been specific complaints about her from parents, and how have those been handled? This case also does not describe the district's policy on internet use. We could assume that it's similar to other districts, but it would also be important to consider the specific policies that this district has. Also, it'd be good to know how cases are handled when students commit slander against other people, such as a teacher in this situation. What policies are in place regarding students committing harassment against other people? There are so many things about this teacher that we do not know. Although she seems to be highly qualified and she believes in rigorous instruction, there are complaints from families, and we don't know anything about this teacher's personality or how she teaches in the classroom or any of that sort of thing. So it'd be nice to know more about this teacher. Okay, so the problem identification here, if you want to get right down to it, is this Miss Walker has high academic standards and does not seem to consider the needs of the student specifically. This has resulted in a poor teacher-student relationship. Attempts to correct this have not worked so far, and Miss Walker is now the target of internet libel. The steps that are needed to resolve the problem is to determine who developed this website, then maybe determine the motive of the person who made it and address their needs within the classroom if it was indeed a student. Also, it would be important to enforce the district policy regarding internet use and abuse when it affects the learning environment, and then continue to provide support to Ms. Walker in terms of building and developing relationships within the classroom. The strategies that I would use to implement this plan would be to begin by asking students who might be involved with this and find out why this has occurred. Then I would look up, or if I have not yet become familiar with the district's policy about internet use and libel, I would find that out and then administer consequences appropriately once I found out who is responsible. Then I would probably come up with a written plan for Ms. Walker that would address the needs of her classroom as well as the needs of her students, and I think that this would probably be an essential strategy for success for her. What is best for students? Promoting the success for all students includes building an atmosphere of community and respect for every person within the classroom. Also, it is best for students to ensure the appropriate use of technology for all teachers and students. And then it's also best to maintain high quality teachers while ensuring that the needs of the community are met as well. Also, it is best for students when it's made sure that staff and students feel safe at school. Also, competent staff need to be there and also be open to the concept of being a lifelong learner. thinking, feeling, and valuing. During this case, I was thinking about lots of different things. I was thinking that maybe the teacher didn't really seem open to learning about new ideas because the principal has been working with the teacher to no avail. I also found myself wondering about the students who created the site. I wanted to know more about them and what type of student and person that they were. And then thirdly, I was thinking about the principal and how supportive he seemed to be throughout this case scenario. The feeling part of this, I actually really felt bad for the teacher because she seemed really capable, but she was having problems with certain aspects of her job that maybe just needed fine-tuned. She hasn't been at this very long, and maybe she just needed more practice. I was just really feeling really upset for her that felt like she had to go all the way back to her parents' house in order to feel safe. She seemed to, be dramatizing it a little bit, but I'm sure that it feels very personal to it would feel very personal to have something of this nature happen. I also felt like the students who did this probably didn't understand the full gravity of their actions and the hurt that they probably caused another person. For this section of valuing, first and foremost, I value humility. And based on the complaints and the slander from the students and the parents in this community at this school, they don't seem to be, to me, in tune with this value. And I would have a very difficult time adjusting to a school like this one. Me personally, I've stayed out of schools like this on purpose because I know that this value doesn't work in sync with a school like this. I also value a rigorous education, but understand that students have needs too, and the teacher is obviously out of sync with that need. Thirdly, I value a supportive administration, and I think that this is something that this principal has achieved. The unresolved issues in this case is that the person who's responsible for libel is unknown. The consequences for the student is also unknown, and then the teacher's ultimate action from this situation is not resolved, and we will not know, what her final action will be yet. Integrity and ethical behavior. The principal demonstrated a sense of integrity and ethical behavior by being supportive for the teacher in order to facilitate teacher and student relationships. The principal has been working with this teacher to make this happen. And then also just to act calmly and supportive when Miss Walker called him that night in a frantic state. Fairness and equity. The principal acted with fairness by waiting to pass judgment on anyone without first investigating the situation, and then also validating Miss Walker's feelings about the threatening messages found on the website. Personal and professional code of ethics. The principal demonstrated a personal and professional code of ethics by behaving in a way that's consistent with the high moral ground. He did this by not engaging in accusing other students and slander. Rather, he insisted on waiting until he could talk to others and find out more information. And then finally, assisting Miss Walker in accomplishing proper student relationships in order to facilitate a learning environment. This is obviously something he's been working on and will continue to do so. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.